Hey everyone, greetings again. It's Naomi Wolf of Daily Cloud and on Substack Outspoken. And yes, that's Loki in the background, an influencer, social media star. And today I am going to read to you an essay I wrote late last night and posted on Substack. And it's about Jeffrey Epstein and President Trump in the sense of trying to explain from my knowledge base or share or think through what I think could be part of the otherwise imponderable dilemma of President Trump's treatment of the Epstein files in recent days. So the essay is called "The Network," quote unquote, in the worlds of the elites. And the subtitle is "Baffled by President Trump's Response to the Epstein, quote, client list. I think I get it." Is there something about liberal elite networks you should understand? Half the country is up in arms. Oh dear, where's Loki going? Okay, he's just adjusting his nap. Half the country is up in arms about President Donald Trump's inexplicable decision to mock his base because many are appalled that Attorney General Pam Bondi seems to be orchestrating a cover-up of a serial rapist of children. Bondi's Justice Department released a memo last week. Quote, "The two-page document said the department found no evidence of an Epstein client list and that no additional files from the investigation would be made public." Now I am here to tell you that this is a little weird. I had tech interference yesterday when I interviewed Joshua Gutskov about fertility drops in Israel subsequent to the mRNA injection. And now the whole rest of my essay on Substack is not available. It's just to show you what it looks like. It's a white blank. Can you see that? And I have 4 bars. Oh my God, what is going on? Well, this is live, so I'm going to try to find a way around it. I'm going to call up the essay elsewhere and just keep reading. Here we go. President Trump's response to all this has been startling. He stated that, quote, "only really bad people want to keep something like this going," end quote. According to NBC, he also called MAGA supporters of his who are upset at AG Bondi, quote, "weaklings who," quote, "bought into this bull s," end quote. President Trump's supporters, including Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia, and even Alex Jones, are furious and calling for full release of the, quote, Epstein files. Polls show harm to his support, numbers that could threaten Republicans in the midterms. Democrats are racing to capitalize on the fissures opening among Republicans, as Politico reports. President Trump's appeal to his base is that he is one of us and that he promises transparency, a situation that casts him as a rich guy with muddy motivations, protecting another late rich guy's friends, the dead man being the worst of the worst, could lose him the base and cause Maha voters, millions of them moms and dads of girls like the ones that Epstein abused, to flee. Conservatives are baffled. My husband, a truly objective man, Brian O'Shea, as well as an ardent President Trump supporter who also worked for numerous intelligence agencies for almost 3 decades, is puzzled to the point of wondering if the president is acting uncharacteristically in response to some serious unnamed threat or threats, perceived or actual. Because I spent decades in the same elite liberal circles that sheltered Epstein, I am not puzzled. I think I understand the matrix of this situation. And just let me know if you can see and hear me, because the tech interference that I've been having for the last few days is super, super weird. And I will keep going in the meantime. This has, in my view, to do with the network. I think that it is likely that multiple people who are critical to this administration's success, my guess is that these are mostly guys from the Silicon Valley community who have been the ones to put the fuel of their billions and their technical and media support into President Trump's campaign and administration's engines, whether they are innocent or guilty, are in the Epstein files. Remember why Mrs. Gates broke up with Mr. Gates? And I think this nation's most important scientists, innocent or guilty, are in the files. And my guess is that the funders have confronted President Trump. Why do I think this? There are several clues. One is the interview of the late Epstein's former lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, with Chris Cuomo. Remember, Dershowitz used to represent President Trump as well. Dershowitz confirmed that there is a redacted list of people accused of improper conduct, stressed that no one who is a public figure who is in office currently, you get it, is on the list, and called on AG Pam Bondi to ask the New York courts who have custody of this list to release it. If you read the hieroglyphics here correctly, what you should see, this is why it is useful to have been a political consultant. You can read the code, which often involves triangulation or, quote, deniability. You can see that A, President Trump is not on this list. B, President Trump does not wish the horrific baggage of being the one to infuriate all the powerful people who are on this list by releasing it himself via his Attorney General. C, they, the Trump administration, want it released by others, i.e., by the New York courts, so that they themselves don't receive the appalling blowback. Video and audio are good. Good. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you so much. I also believe that there are make or break tech bro Trump supporters on the list because of a moving interview given by Eric Weinstein on July 14th, 2025. That's just 3 days ago as I record today. Interestingly, in the midst of the Bondi furor, to Stephen Bartlett on the Diary of a CEO podcast. Eric Weinstein was, until 2022, managing director for the American venture capital firm Thiel Capital. Weinstein is a compelling intellectual, in addition to having served at the very top of one of Silicon Valley's key organizations. He created a physics-based, quote, theory of everything that he brought to a fellowship at the Mathematical Institute at Oxford, and he was trained in mathematics at Harvard University. On the podcast, he stated that the, quote, sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was a, quote, product of one or more elements of the intelligence community, end quote. Weinstein, this is all a quote from Newsweek, Weinstein, who said he had met Epstein, described him as, quote, certainly was not a financier in any standard sense. That was a cover story, end quote. Quote, British entrepreneur Bartlett asks about Weinstein having met Epstein, and he says, quote, he wasn't a financier the day I met him. Weinstein goes on to describe Epstein as a, quote, weird guy who, quote, didn't seem to know a lot about currency trading, end quote. Weinstein also describes Epstein as a, quote, construct, end quote. This interview, this is me talking again, this interview has been seen by 2.4 million people. It is riveting. I felt a deep sense of recognition when Weinstein was speaking. My sense is that Weinstein was speaking extremely carefully, that his goal, among others, was to establish that one could be enmeshed in documentation around the Epstein community and, quote, lists without being a pedophile. Indeed, one could be enmeshed in those documents simply for being a cutting-edge scientist, and that one intention of his was to put this situation on the record. I know that Eric Weinstein is correct. Quote, the list or lists, end quote, will have pedophiles on them, and they will have innocent men and women who are snapshotted forever in the vicinity of Epstein, even at his New Mexico ranch, and yes, even on his island, simply because they had the misfortune to be some of the most important scientists, mathematicians, and technologists of our time. And I embed the interview on the Steve Bartlett podcast, and it's called Jeffrey Epstein was a front with Eric Weinstein. Eric Weinstein argues that the Epstein, quote, construct was what the military calls, quote, dual use, end quote. That is, that Epstein had multiple missions running concurrently. One mission, of course, was that of running a grotesque sexual honeypot, exploiting minors for purposes of blackmail. But another, Eric Weinstein argues, is the management and direction of Western science itself. Weinstein notes that Ghislaine Maxwell's father, the late publishing magnate / reputed intelligence asset Robert Maxwell, founded the scientific imprint Pergamon Press, the Oxford-based imprint that published medical books and journals, which was bought by Elsevier, which is the main scientific publishing imprint, and the Advance Guard Scientifically, I point out parenthetically, for the COVID vaccine narrative. Indeed, Elsevier created a, quote, resource hub around COVID for, quote, librarians, campuses, and health professionals, end quote, an oddly activist offering from what is supposed to be a neutral scientific platform, end quote. Excuse me. Eric Weinstein notes that Epstein funded a number of important scientists and that he had an office at Harvard. Eric Weinstein says in the podcast, with what looks like suppressed rage, that he wants to know why Epstein was aware of Weinstein's work, and why Epstein was embedded in the Harvard mathematics department. And I show an image of the Harvard math department. Indeed, Harvard was an avid matchmaker for Epstein among the scientific and mathematics community. Harvard accepted about $9 million from Jeffrey Epstein and gave him an office in the institute that he helped to fund. Epstein visited Harvard more than 40 times. Key Harvard academics were brought to him by connectors in the university and encouraged to socialize with him. Quote, some Harvard professors, beyond mathematics professor Martin Nowak, appear to have enjoyed close ties with Epstein, the Harvard Review found. This was an internal review commissioned by the Harvard president when the story of Epstein's funding of scientists came out. The report says, quote, a number, quote, of faculty members visited Epstein at his homes in New York, Florida, New Mexico, and the Virgin Islands. The italics are mine. Some said they visited him in jail or took trips on his planes. The visits were done in a personal capacity, the report said, and do not appear to violate Harvard's rules, end quote. So this is me talking again. Systematically, consistently, major intellectuals, especially in the fields of computation, genetics, evolutionary biology, and consciousness, were being herded by gatekeepers into proximity to Epstein, who had been planted physically in their midst. And these academics were urged to accept his funding money and to meet with him, and by implication to befriend him or to accept his friendship and even his invitations. I think this is the, quote, why, end quote, that Eric Weinstein is asking. And we will return to the implications of this systematic engagement structure later. Eric Weinstein is correct. Jeffrey Epstein did fund cutting-edge scientists and mathematicians, especially in the fields of genetics and evolutionary biology. He even convened them via another entity into a community under his funding structure. Weinstein's larger claim that the Maxwell-Epstein nexus or construct served not just to fund, but to direct and manage and gatekeep and put a frame around and essentially set the direction of science is a claim that makes sense from what I know. I know that Weinstein is right because I was unknowingly part of a network that overlapped with a part of this network. My agent for almost all of my career, since I was discovered by him and since he helped me to publish my first book, The Beauty Myth, a bestseller at the age of 26, was the legendary literary agent John Brockman. Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf of Daily Clout, Have you ever wondered why your brain can feel foggy even when you're eating clean and exercising? It might not be burnout, it could be parasites. Groundbreaking research from Dr. Alan MacDonald reveals a direct link between chronic parasite infections and neurological diseases, such as multiple sclerosis. Parasites can cause inflammation, nerve damage, and long-term cognitive decline. More reason to do a full body cleanse at least once a year. The wellness company has a solution for you, ivermectin and mebendazole, the gold standard parasite solution now combined in one cleanse combo designed to eliminate harmful invaders and support your immune system naturally. Medical grade, not some trendy herbal gimmick. Fill out a quick intake form and you'll get a 3-month supply shipped straight to your door. Maha is officially here, and the wellness company is making hard to get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life. Head to dailyclout.health and use code dailyclout to save $60 off plus free shipping on all orders. Cleanse your body today. Get rid of parasites today. Thank you. Brockman became as famous as his famous stable of intellectuals, especially during the 2000s and 2010s, for promoting something he called the third culture, an intersection between the humanities, technology, and the sciences. Brockman's roster of writers had no mass market novelists, no thriller writers, no cookbook writers, no popular historians. It was in retrospect a remarkably curated list. I was honored to join it. Brockman Inc. primarily represented the very pinnacle of science and science-adjacent writers. Evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins, The Selfish Gene, The God Delusion, cognitive scientist Daniel Dennett, psychologist Daniel Kahneman, quote, nimble deal maker for the stars of science, end quote, reads a gushing New York Times profile of John Brockman. Jeffrey Epstein funded the Edge Foundation, Brockman's digital and IRL in real life salon. No one knew this, or at least no one I knew this. This entity held gatherings of these intellectuals and published a website and books in which they were asked critical questions. The website is still up, and I link to it. Edge.org's website hosts commentary by the best of the best, the minds that are directing our culture and our science. Theoretical physicist Murray Gell-Mann, cultural anthropologist Mary Catherine Bateson, Gnostic gospel scholar Elaine Pagels, theoretical physicist Freeman Dyson, Google co-founder Larry Page. Its motto is, quote, to arrive at the edge of the world's knowledge, seek out the most complex and sophisticated minds, put them in a room together, and have them ask each other the questions they are asking themselves, end quote. Edge.org hosted millionaires' dinners, which later became billionaires' dinners. These brought the elite of the world of science together with the elites of Silicon Valley. Edge.org also published commentary by some of the most influential intellectuals in the world, mostly men from both of these worlds in dialogue. Evolutionary biologist Brett Weinstein and Eric Weinstein both contributed to Edge.org, and in 2018, Eric Weinstein thanked Brockman in a tweet for the opportunity to speak, quote, as me, end quote. I will just lift out the sections from Wikipedia that explain the basics of the Epstein link with Brockman Inc., as I do not wish to locate myself in the crosshairs of any new reporting on this dangerous story. Quote, in an interview with Prince Andrew dated November 17th, 2019, BBC reporter Emily Maitlis mentioned that both Andrew and John Brockman attended an intimate dinner at child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein's mansion to celebrate Epstein's release from prison for charges which stemmed from at least 1 decade of child sex trafficking. Andrew's presence at Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan mansion was corroborated by Brockman himself in emails published in an October 2019 New Republic report. The story suggested that Brockman was the, quote, intellectual enabler of Jeffrey Epstein, the financier who died in August 2019 while again awaiting trial on charges related to sex trafficking. Brockman's famous literary dinners, held during the TED conference, were, for a number of years after Epstein's conviction, almost entirely funded by Epstein, as documented in his annual tax filings. This allowed Epstein to mingle with scientists, startup icons, and tech billionaires, italics mine, period, end quote. So that's the end of the Wikipedia summary. And I just want to note for the record, because this is such a radioactive story, that I did no new reporting. All of this was in the public domain. In 2009, Jeffrey Epstein was released from prison. By 2010, Brockman's community of intellectuals went far beyond the scruffy, if distinguished, Harvard professors of the early 2000s. By that year, and then throughout the teens, the 2010s, Brockman's Edge Foundation, via the Billionaires' Dinners, somehow convened the leaders, indeed the emperors and empresses of the tech world. Here in one improbable room in 2010, where Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, Huffington Post founder Arianna Huffington, Marissa Mayer, then at Google, Larry Page, who co-founded Google, Craig Venter, who sequenced the human genome, biologist George Church, who later had to apologize for accepting funding from Jeffrey Epstein, weirdly, PCR test inventor Kari Mullis, weirdly, The Simpsons creator Matt Groening, and Nathan Myhrvold, formerly CTO at Microsoft and founder of Intellectual Ventures, the tech brotherhood's ground zero of venture funding. Susan Wojcicki, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, later CEO of YouTube. Jason Calacanis, the tech investor who turned, per his book, $100,000 into $100 million, and Michael Chow, who eventually led Apple's foray into electronics such as the iPad. And that is just one single year. The star-studded tech and scientific names march on through the subsequent decade. Co-founder of Google, Sergey Brin, co-founder of Microsoft, Paul Allen, Tony Fadell, father of the iPod, quote unquote. In 2019, the news broke that Epstein funded Edge.org. BuzzFeed and other news outlets ran stories, and I linked to them. I immediately broke up with my career-long representation and wrote a heartbroken letter to John Brockman and his wife and colleague, Katinka Matson. Heartbroken because I had actually loved them and because I had trusted them with my development as a writer, which task they had managed brilliantly for decades. And heartbroken too, because I was a survivor of child rape myself. After I left, I had a lot of conversations with Brockman's other clients. They called me, I did not call them. To a man, and they were all men, these distinguished intellectuals explained that they empathized with my views and shared my indignation about Epstein's misdeeds, but that they were not going to leave Brockman Inc. I guess what I'm trying to explain is the power and endurance and really the sanctity of the network in the worlds of the elite. Even with the news breaking that the agency's cultural activities were funded by a pedophile, Brockman's other clients rightly calculated that their staying within the shelter of such a powerful network would be more beneficial to them than would be leaving, even if on principle, and losing the support of and access to that influential network. And they were right. What you need to understand, taking this all back to what I believe is President Trump's dilemma, is that calculations about the power of the network and the scary losses sustained by crossing the network, let alone losing its protection and resources, are not restricted to the Edge Foundation. All of liberal elite society works in this exact same way. And I italicized that sentence for emphasis. It is all kind of like the mafia. You may not agree with the capo or some of the dons around you, but you know very well that crossing them means certain destruction for yourself, so everyone aligns. I think this is what President Trump is also trying to explain, though of course he cannot state all of this overtly. Understand too what Eric Weinstein and Dershowitz are separately trying to tell you. The Epstein files probably contain many innocent people, as well as many guilty ones. But again, they are very likely to contain innocent and guilty, some of the most powerful of President Trump's current supporters, and some of the greatest of scientists and some of the most influential technologists of our time. And even someone as powerful as the American president, in my calculation, can't cross that most powerful of all powerful networks. You should also absorb the nuances of what Eric Weinstein is, as I understand him, trying to tell us. In Epstein, we are not just looking at a sexual blackmail operation for US and foreign political leaders and hedge fund guys. We are also looking at a construct that seduced and lured scientists, that was institutionally set up to seduce and lure scientists, and that may have created conditions that look compromising on paper, whether the scientists did anything wrong or not. We are also looking at a machine constructed to entrap and perhaps pressure, whether they are innocent or guilty, a generation of the most important scientists of our time. Why? Perhaps, as Eric Weinstein is suggesting, to steer science itself. Weinstein is sure that Epstein was an intel op. So if he is correct, and I have no idea, those steering science and to some extent technology by setting up via Epstein compromat that can destroy and pressure both innocent and guilty scientists and technologists is either our intelligence community or it's not our intelligence community. Think about the national security implications of this either way, if either possibility is true. Who was drawn in? The scientists targeted were the precursor minds of our current world in its more dystopian aspects. The scientists in this targeted stable deal with various dimensions, with pre-AI, with the management of awareness, with the difference between brain and consciousness, with genetics and the altering of genes, with evolution, with ritual, with what makes humans human, and with what allows them to transcend human limitations. Transhumanism is a reductive term in this context, but someone powerful, as I think Eric Weinstein is seeking to tell us, is very interested in science taking the same directions that support and align with where the tech bros are seeking to steer humanity. And the tech bros are taking the same directions that the targeted scientists took. This is non-random cultural evolution. What is behind this? What is the ultimate meaning? What is the desired outcome? I don't have the answers, but to me, it seems that these are the key questions. And these questions may explain the megalith of internal resistance that may be facing President Trump. The dinners of 2010 and beyond turned into our reality in 2025. This all greatly complicates the Epstein story. It makes it a story about the corrupting and perhaps even the blackmailing and directing of science and technology, and maybe even of both guilty and innocent scientists, and maybe even of both guilty and innocent technologists, as well as being an easier to assess story about royals and retail clothing moguls, and about, above all, the sexual abuse of children. It may mean that innocent people, as well as guilty, major scientists and major technologists perhaps, may have been set up or enmeshed in circumstances that they now fear coming to light, whether they did nothing wrong at all or whether they did something wrong. It may mean that whoever was steering Epstein was also steering our science. That makes it a very different, very significant, perhaps culture-changing, perhaps history-changing story. It would make it a story with which we have to be persistent and steady in our demands, but also cautious and methodical and discerning. This all may be even bigger and even more worrying than we realize. I used to go to events hosted by publicist Peggy Siegel, who was also Jeffrey Epstein's publicist. There were Wall Street guys and star journalists and B-list movie stars and A-list TV stars, politicians and fashion icons and socialites, old money and new money. After 2010 or so, there were tech royalty and tech investors. The events were fun. Movie premieres and galas celebrating this or that charity, silent waiters and waitresses, horrible food, glowing candles, bare shoulders, magnolias in artsy tablescapes, soaring columns of the library or of the historic interior of 48 Wall Street, an ornate former bank. And I show the image. Let's see if I can show you the image. I will share my screen, and I won't bother trying to do that because I don't understand well enough how to do it. At one event, I think it was a film premiere, so this would have been in a deluxe movie theater, I remember that someone pointed out Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein was finding his seat, as I recall, and he was so tall. His silver hair gleamed in the darkness, and as monsters go, he looked personable. You have to stay healthy and well at times like this. You know that I often have suffered from mobility issues, and now I don't. Part of my lifestyle is Native Path collagen. So Native Path's collagen formula is made with ingredients that are scientifically developed to increase bone mineral density, support tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all of these benefits? So right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it risk-free today. It is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, which makes sure that it's pure and safe. It's flavorless. You can add it to anything. I add it to my oatmeal. You can add it to coffee or smoothies. Its formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes without clumping. And the best part is Native Path is offering amazing bundle deals, 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice, and they offer an 800 number. You can ask any question. A real person is waiting to help. You can join a private Facebook community. I love these people. Share recipes, success stories. So that's getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your experience of transformation today. He carried himself proudly with no shame at all in his physical demeanor. This may have been about 2012, his rehabilitation PR lap. I was in a small group and someone said that he had been to prison for the sexual abuse of children. I recall a kind of collective shrug from the hedge fund guys who were standing around, a kind of, huh. Epstein obviously still had juice, was the vibe, and he had served his time. F. Scott Fitzgerald pointed out that, quote, there are no second acts in American lives, but many in the Peggy Siegel crowd, in contrast, loved a good comeback from disgrace. As I recall, some of the people with whom I was standing made their way over to meet him. Notoriety was the aura he brought to the scene, a frisson, a kind of negative thrill. Others did not react with the repugnance that I felt, or at least not visibly. I guess what I'm trying to show you is no one or very few in truly elite circles wants to risk losing the valuable, precious, life-sustaining network. So here she goes along with just about anything in the characters of others in the network. This doesn't mean they approve, but they go along. You can't cross the network. Is that what President Trump is facing now? I wonder. That is the essay, and let's now bring in my colleague and husband, Brian O'Shea, the host of Investigate Everything. Hey, darling, what are your thoughts?
Where do you want me to begin?
Well, let's see if there's any comments we should be sure to address. Let's see. It's an interesting. Chris Pumatier says he's purposely depressing his own vote. They passed the Genius Act, now going to pass the baton. I'm not sure what that means. Do you know what the Genius Act is, honey?
I do not. I've heard of it, but I have not had a chance to read it.
And Patrick Fell says, boom, boom, boom. I hope so. I mean, it seemed pretty eye-opening to me when I put these pieces together. And then Danny Thomas says, I don't know if this is true, but when you see the bigger picture, everything soon will make perfect sense. This is solely entrapment of the deep state criminal syndicate puppet masters, absolutely nothing to do with Epstein. I don't know. Jason Smothers says, oh, wow, you have really fallen off because
Yeah,
I am.
what does that mean? I saw that comment. Is that?
I mean, I get trolls and bots. I don't know, Jason, what do you mean? What?
Yeah, Jason.
let's investigate it. Go ahead and expand on that. Vanda Grubb says this doesn't sound like an easy share. I appreciate your perspective. And Chris Pumatier expands on his earlier comment. Epstein was the distraction they needed to pass the Genius Act, CBDC. Chris, I think you've made this point before, and I think I said that it was a good point before, and that is really interesting. As I recall, the Genius Act that Chris mentioned before, if I'm remembering correctly, has to do with central bank digital currency. And his argument, if I'm remembering correctly, was that it was a distraction. These events were a distraction as they kind of set up what Catherine Austin Fitts calls the control grid. Well, let me go to you, Brian, in terms of your reasoning about the Epstein case from your background in many intelligence situations.
Well, here's what I think. So I've been going through it a lot, like the details. So I see a lot of people saying, look at this connection, look at this connection. Those are all good suggestions.
Darling, do you mind speaking up a little? Because it's a little hard to hear you. Thank you.
How's that? Is that better?
Much better. Thank you.
Gamer mic. I bought it in Europe, so that's all I got. And those are all important things, but what I say is just timeline everything. That's what I've been doing for the last 4 days. I've really never looked at this case, but just every news article, not that they're credible, but just collect them all, save them in date, time, group order, and then start going through them and reading the story. And then you're going to find, you're going to start small, you're going to flesh out. This is called target-centric intelligence. So where I started this week was with the death of Jeffrey Epstein. And as it turns out, there's some interesting things. We won't get into that. We'll save that for my show. But what is the use of him? Well, let's look at a few facts. In 1976 to 1981, he actually worked for Bear Stearns.
Oh.
I just discovered that this morning. I'm sure other people have written about it, but he worked for Bear Stearns and in New York, and he was making a salary of about $42,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And with bonuses, and he claims in this deposition that you can find online that brought him up to about $135,000, $150,000. The hearing was about a company that apparently Bear Stearns people, sounds like it was an insider trading type of hearing, not for Jeffrey Epstein because he'd resigned. He was brought in by Bear Stearns as a witness to go to this deposition with the SEC, okay, Securities and Exchange Commission.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, there's a lot revealed. Apparently, the SEC was zoning in on Bear Stearns. But the point of me bringing that up is that he went from this, good salary for back then. It wasn't bad for 1981. But from Going from the Dalton school, he went right to Bear Stearns.
Wow.
Okay, which is that's a step up,
That's
and
so.
was living in Manhattan and was vacationing in Palm Beach back then.
Hmm.
There's also questions in that deposition about, do you know that so and so lived at this address, and that it's redacted, so I don't know who they're talking about. And he said, no, I was just looking at it as something to buy. Okay.
Mhm.
But then all of a sudden he kind of disappears, right? And then within 10 years, he comes back like the Count of Monte Cristo, more fabulously wealthy than anyone in Manhattan,
And
more
what period
access.
is this that he
I,
comes
I believe this is like into the mid to late 90s. Don't quote me on
right?
that. But
Okay,
there is
so
that
before
moment.
his 2008 conviction.
Yeah, so there's that moment where he disappears, comes back, tons of money, and just the jet fuel alone. If you look at those flight logs that are in the 2000s, he was flying every day to the
Wow.
Virgin Islands. That's not cheap just on the fuel alone. So
Right.
he's definitely well funded. And I'm sorry, but I don't know how he made that money on the stock market, just prospecting stocks, unless he's the best and most connected insider trader ever. So
Can I
what?
jump in and ask you a question, or do you want to
Let
finish
me
what you're?
just get to my point. So my point is, from my experience working with assets and also working with platforms. Okay,
Mhm.
so think of when I see Jeffrey Epstein, and if I think, okay, was this guy an intel asset? Well, an
Mhm.
intel asset is someone that gives you information. An intel asset can be, the taxi driver on the street, if you saw Black Hawk Down, who was recruited by the SEALs to give, kind of be a forward observer, let them know when the bad guys went in so they could raid it. That's
Mhm.
more of an intel asset. I
Mhm.
don't see Epstein as collecting intel on these people, but he may have been blackmailing these people
Mhm.
that came to his island and everything else. If that's the case, that makes him a platform. So what is a
Can I ask you,
platform? Hmm.
why do you say you don't think he was collecting intel? Because the victims, or whatever alleged victims, report a lot of cameras, everywhere.
Well,
And
that's so he's collecting. He's putting them in a compromising situation for
how is that
leverage.
not collecting intel? Is that different?
Well, it's collecting intel, but his main mission doesn't seem to have been collecting intel.
I
Collecting
see.
intel might be, like if I recruit, some guy from an intel agency from another country, and I want to know all the intel he's looking at. He's collecting intel for me.
Gotcha.
Okay. Whereas in this case, you have a guy who was set up with all of these assets, and I do believe he was set up with them. I'm trying to figure out
Mm.
from where. And people came to him. It was
Right.
like, that's why they call it a honeypot. People came to him. They wanted to be near him. Like in your essay, people were gravitating towards him. There's also the fact that he was what you might call almost like an all-around type of, multi-use platform,
Right.
where he's targeting the sciences, he's targeting the academics, the financial industry, the overseas industry, the entertainment industry.
Mhm.
All of those aspects of people came into his orbit, a lot of
Right.
them of their own accord.
So
So,
you're
mhm,
agreeing with Eric Weinstein that he was at least dual use as a construct.
I think yeah, so it's the way it works. It's like, if I set up, okay, there's a great movie that I like, you wouldn't like it. It's called John Wick.
Okay.
Okay, and in John Wick, it's about this world of underground assassins. It's like a great comic book movie. Well, there's this hotel that any of the assassins can go to if they pay their annual dues, which is in the millions of dollars. And when you're in that hotel, you have to abide by the hotel's rules. That's
Darling, can you
beside the.
just turn up the volume a tiny bit? I don't want
Yeah,
to
I don't
miss
know
it.
what's happening here.
Maybe just speak a little louder, sweetheart.
Is that better?
Yeah, but now I
Okay.
can't see your handsome face. So
Well, let me just, the info's more important. Let me get rid of that, and then I'm going to add this. How's that?
okay, that's better, sweetheart. Keep going.
Okay, so in that hotel, anyone can go there, and
Mhm.
as long as you pay a fee. So think of, hypothetically, because I don't know, think of Epstein like that hotel.
Okay.
Israel might want to blackmail someone, Okay, they call whoever's handling Epstein, or they're handling him, because they want to blackmail some diplomats from a rival country. Hey, get them to Epstein's parties. He'll get the goods. The U.S. wants to blackmail some people. They call his handler. That handler could I don't think that handler was the CIA, because this actually seems too big for the CIA. This seems. Well, I mean, the CIA is not as almighty and powerful as people think it is. It's just that the CIA is the only truly independent intel agency with its own repository for clearances. It's got the most secrecy. So the movies and not knowing tends to embellish it in people's heads. But it actually has a smaller budget than a lot of the intel agencies in the IC, in the intel community.
And I know you won't tell me anything classified because
I can't remember it because I'm getting old.
Go ahead, honey.
Okay, so that's how I see this handled, because so many different people, and you know this, you were in those social circles when I met you, people from all these different walks of life, but of a certain monetary value, but also of they had certain access. Everyone at his parties had a certain entry point to a certain industry group. But you rarely see...
Oh, wow. You're saying they were selected strategically?
No, what I'm saying is it seems like there were multiple people using him as a platform. Because, so let's say you're Israel and you're interested in getting into, stealing the business of oil from Venezuela. You're going to have him blackmailing a bunch of Venezuelans and Chevron executives. Oh, did I say Chevron out loud? So then...
Please don't say anything that will get us, railroaded.
We're not that important. Don't worry about it. So then the other thing is, now another customer might come along and say, hey, I'm the United States and I want to get into... I don't know, biotech. So all of a sudden, a bunch of people are going to be blackmailed from the biotech industry. Well, if there's multiple people using Epstein at the same time, you're going to have multiple people at parties who normally don't mix together well.
Right.
And Peggy Siegel would know that, because she's, was the mistress of the universe in getting people the right matches of people to parties. I've gone to her parties with you, and it always gels real well. But his mass list of people that just went to these parties and he had access to really tells me that multiple people, multiple countries, multiple agencies were using him for multiple reasons. His whole job is blackmail. He probably didn't care.
Funded by multiple countries, is what
well, and that's normally how it's done with these high-level platforms. So there were, I won't go into the detail or even the area or the mission, but for instance, let's say there's a huge propaganda platform, and that platform is Acme TV of, Fantasy Island country.
If you're like me and you're getting to that age at which your body sometimes just hurts all the time, please listen. Don't reach for another painkiller until you learn about this turmeric hack for pain and inflammation. You've probably already heard that turmeric is being used to fight inflammation and joint pain, but not all turmeric is created equal. Regular turmeric powder in your pantry will help you a little, but a leading pain doctor from Connecticut discovered a special turmeric extract that is 200 times more powerful than what you find in standard turmeric. And when he shared this turmeric secret with his patients, the results were extraordinary. This turmeric extract attacks pain at the source, turning it off like a light switch, so that pain not only often goes away, but stays away. Dr. Josh, the brains behind it all, has spent 20 years helping hundreds of thousands of Americans finally break free from constant aches and stiffness. And his turmeric hack has been the backbone of their success. So don't engage, if you can avoid it, with expensive surgeries, pain injections, or inefficient over-the-counter medications with side effects. Greet pain-free living. It's incredible stuff. I started taking it regularly, and I really did notice a difference. Again, you can't just take any old turmeric. If you want to learn more about Dr. Josh's turmeric secret and the exact method for how to use it in your routine, go to goldenrevive.com/dailycloud. The link is right below this video in the description. Click on it and start your journey toward a pain-free, healthier life. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they have the biggest reach in a certain region.
Mm-hmm.
There will be multiple people at that boardroom table from multiple agencies representing multiple countries with bags of money.
Wow.
Everyone, you have to buy your way in, just like that hotel. Anyone can use it.
So is it possible that entities that are not allies or that could even be enemies could both buy kind of use the same platform?
Happens like all the time.
Wow.
It's honestly, I can say it kind of is like that scene from Airplane where like all the bad guys are sitting around the table. You got Mr. Peanut, you've got the Ayatollah, and all these people, but they all have common interests. Or like the Joker scene in the Heath Ledger Batman where all the different gang leaders are at the same table trying to come to terms on how to use a certain or how to deal with a certain thing. That's how it's like at that level. And the fact that there was so much money, that's beyond the reach of one country, not because like the United States can't afford it, but you can't keep it a secret at that level because over a certain amount, there's a lot of, even at the CIA, there's an army of lawyers that if your sneeze goes over a certain decibel amount, all of a sudden it becomes a committee meeting. So you can't really keep it that secret if it's just one country, but if it's multiple countries, then
you've explained a ton. So if, there's a possibility that what you're describing could be at play here, what effect might that have? And I know we're just speculating on President Trump's, in your own words, kind of inexplicable or uncharacteristic reaction to his base, to pressure to reveal the files and so on. Why would he be hesitating given what you just shared? What could happen?
My instinct. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, would it be a huge national security problem to release the files?
Here's my instinct.
And I'm not, I just want to stress, I'm not taking a position. I'm just curious about what's going on.
Well, I have as much info as you. I just, I spent a lot of time on in the world of the Morlocks underneath the White House while you were sipping cocktails with the Eloys above ground. But I'll say this. My instinct reading this man, who I'm a strong supporter of, I am MAGA, I am, I've got every hat. I like wearing those hats around, Wokest, Salem, Massachusetts, just to piss people off. That's me, huge supporter. But I'm also objective. And I've really kind of broken down, made a list of like, okay, why would he not just, after this debacle, why would he, not fire Bondi? Okay, because I could see one time, like back in February when she released the binders full of nothing new and really humiliated influencers and everyone else and pissed everyone off. That's your one strike with Trump. He usually gives you one strike if we base it off his last administration. Mm-hmm. You don't get a second strike. You're out if you screw up again. But he still hasn't fired her, and this is a major, major screw up PR-wise. And he keeps doubling down, saying, stop talking about this, make this go away. Come on, my boys and girls in MAGA. It's just not like him to plead.
So what do you think is going on?
I think he's scared of something. I really do.
What is it you just said? I didn't catch it.
Is it my mic that bad?
No, I spoke over you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I think he's scared of something. I really do. And that's... Well, because I was thinking, like, okay, if it's a national security thing, he would have those people eliminated. I mean, he got kind of railroaded into the Iran thing, but he didn't hesitate. He dropped, hundreds of tons of bombs in Iran and brought them to heel. If it were, fear for the country, he would probably rearrange the decks on the ship and fire some people and get to the bottom of it. Because think about it, when he's out of office, he's got a lot to worry about. They will come after him. They're going to try to come after him at the midterms because of this, they might have a very good chance of winning, the Democrats. But it's more than that. There's got to be something that scares him so much that he is just really desperately trying to make it go away. So what could that one thing be? Well, what is he closest to?
As someone who has security threats myself, I'm a little nervous about...
well, these, we introduced the topic, and we have to talk about it regardless of any fear of it, because
what recourse do we have? How can we help if, God forbid, there is something?
Here's exactly how we can help. As an audience, as a population of, excellent citizen detectives who have minted their skills in the last 4 years because the powers that be stupidly locked us all down but kept the internet on, solve the case. Get as much about it out in the open as possible, because if they are avoiding detonating this bomb, figuratively, we have to. Because once it's out there, then it's not valuable.
Yeah, if we break the case open, he's safe. So, all right, go back to, then I withdraw my, hesitation and...
Don't be afeared, Naomi.
What's that?
Don't be afeared. It's only death.
Oh, honey, come on.
Seriously. Think about this fear. Think about this fear you're feeling. Do you know how much money went into the NIH researching population fear before the pandemic to make people scared of death so they'll do anything?
Really terrible things have happened to real people who have receipts about this case. I mean, poor Virginia Jeffrey.
Really terrible things have happened to you. That's why you hired me.
I know, but I'm still alive. I would like to live to a ripe old age. Let's just keep going.
You don't, seriously though, we are not important enough. We weren't at the parties. We didn't know Jeffrey Epstein. We don't have a dirty bomb under our bed. I mean, we're just, it's a big undertaking in today's world to have someone assassinated as possible, but there's no gain. Like if someone takes you out, it actually is going to make you bigger than ever. Don't get any ideas, any zealots.
That does not sound attractive
to
me.
I'm just trying to explain the reality. You can't let fear keep you back from sharing something that could save you and a lot of people. Because think about it. The more you know, the more valuable you are if that knowledge is only known to you. Right. If you spread that knowledge out, it loses value, just like printing money.
Actually, Valerie Plame told me that as well. The former CIA operative who was outed by the Bush II administration. She said, be as public as you can possibly be, and that's how you stay safest. So, okay, darling, what do you think? I mean, when you say threats, presumably President Trump has the best security.
I don't think it's like a direct threat. I don't think someone's slipping him a note and saying, here's the threat. What I think it is in this administration, he has a lot more access to things rather than having things kept from him in his first time around. And I think it's dawning on him the scope of power here. Now, this is one of those crossroads in life, and I'm not going to speak for him because I'm not dealing with what he's dealing with. It's a Herculean effort to keep your courage to the sticking place in his position in this current time. But he has to remember, no matter how powerful they are, no matter what they're threatening, the threat could be against his entire legacy, and that's probably what it is, or the country, or humankind, for all we know. These people are crazy. But they are crazy. What I would say is the only way to stop it for him is to expose it all, is to go right through that storm, not try to turn away from it and capsize. Because the longer he keeps it a secret, the more vulnerable he is. Now, I don't think there's a client list per se. I think that's why Bondi put that in quotes. But there's certainly lists. And, I think Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's former lawyer, he made a good point. He said there is no list. I would know because I saw everything. Right. He said, but there are lists of people that, he interacted with. And don't forget, he was running a financial company. Now, whether that's a cover company or not, he had enough know-how to run it. And even with cover companies in the intelligence world or You still have to run a business.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll be exposed. So there's lists of people, but I think people just need to do it themselves. If you go through all the 2,000 files that were released in 2019 from the Maxwell case, for instance, after Epstein's death, there's a lot in there. There's images of these the little old paper message things that Epstein would have delivered to him, and it's like, bring the girl. Is she available? She'll be available all weekend. And it's like, Timmy, and it's like, okay, well, good. That's a clue. We got Timmy. Just start making a list. And look, I think the American citizens need to understand that even if they have access to anything that is a smoking gun, and it's all smoking, I don't think there's like a document that's being kept from the American people. I think a lot of the files probably got destroyed. I know Comey was
by the Biden administration.
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly, because you might as well call it the Obama II administration. And who was on the plane the most was the Clintons.
Right.
Okay, who was on the plane the most was the Clintons. Right. So, that's of course they did, but let's not forget as well that he was prosecuted first under a Republican administration. I think this goes beyond partisanship. I think this is a money and class thing, and there's a lot of people who they want to keep enough away from the American people so they can't connect the dots. But even if they release everything that they have, and I definitely think they have more than they're saying,
right.
They don't want to release it because this audience, my audience, I would say the MAGA people, the smart MAGA people, not the sycophants, but they're smart. They'll put it together, and they'll put it together fast. Me as an analyst, I miss the days when I was the only one that was researching things, and I'd be like, look at this discovery. Now it's like I think of something I want to analyze, and there's 15 people who've written a Substack, but that's good. They don't want that to happen. Right. They want this to really go away.
Yeah, what you said, Brian, is really important, and I hadn't thought it through. And Vonda Grubb, whether that's her real name or a pseudonym, it's awesome. She just gave us a lovely comment. I was sharing my fears, and you're reassuring me, and we do make a great team. So thank God you showed up in my life, because
you found me
with all the security risks.
I don't even know how you found me. Maybe you're the intelligence person.
You never know. It's been a long operation, though. It's been about 10 years, maybe. But anyway, what I was going to say is what you said really makes sense. Not instead of, but in addition to people, as they should, expressing their feelings about this lack of transparency, it would be a great public service for everyone to kind of crowd source analysis of the files that are already out there. And where do people find those files, honey?
You can find, you find them anywhere, really. If you just search for Epstein files and look for PDFs.
But isn't there a court case that they should feature?
So if people, I'll put it on the comments so you can put it on the screen, but if people just do like this, I'm going to pop it up. This is very basic, but if you just start with this, just pop that whole thing into a Google search.
Oh, there we go.
Verbatim with the quotes, everything. That's a basic operator in Google. And yes, Google does censor stuff, but they don't censor by omitting stuff. What they do is they censor by moving it to the 27th page of search results. So that's what I tell people, start there. And why PDFs? Because all court documents are published in PDF format. You have to have the quotes, for those that don't know, and a lot of people know how to do this, but you have to have the quotes, otherwise you'll get every Jeffrey and every Epstein out there.
Gotcha.
And make sure you've got the right Jeffrey Epstein. It's Jeffrey, I think Matthew or Michael is his middle name. Make sure you got the right one. There's another couple things. So did I answer your questions? I'm sorry. I'm buzzing off all the coffee.
Yeah, I have one more question before you go on. And what's the best way to be helpful to the country? What's the best way for people who follow your recommendation to share what they find or to crowdsource what they find?
Well, here's what I recommend to people is if you're not a journalist, that doesn't mean you can't write, but make friends with some trusted journalists.
Right.
Get all the information. If you're good at a lot of people like me, I love collecting. I hate writing. I'll write. I'm a decent writer, but collect, and then get it out there in a way that everyone can use it. There's nothing more annoying in something so important like COVID or this, if people put an image of what they found because they don't want someone to scoop them, whereas most people don't end up writing the article anyways. One article is not going to move the needle.
So can you be just really specific, honey?
Trying to get there.
You mean call up or contact a reporter?
Trying to get there.
Okay.
Trying to get there. So the reason I say that is there's things you can learn from trained journalists. Our friend at Epic Times, our friends, Cindy, she told me, I said, I have all this information. What do I do with it? And she said, put it in multiple parts and don't write anything over 650 or 850 words. What's not helpful is when people make these massive association network diagrams.
Right.
We know they're connected to this, but if you're going to make a network diagram on that little the line that connects two people, take the time to watch a YouTube video and learn how to use that program to say, what is that connection? Why is it important? Right. Don't just show people a connection. Don't just show people a discovery. Explain to them why it's important. Explain to them what question it answers. Explain to them, where else that connects things. And the other thing I'd recommend to people is pick a section. If you're going to look at this case, pick a part of it, because this is a huge case that spans decades and people and countries and social circles and industries. Pick something like, okay, I'm going to investigate the 2 guys that got prosecuted for not recording their half-hour visits at the Metropolitan Correctional, and just really dive into those guys, and then move on to the next thing. But what I always say, it's like eating the elephant, right? You do it one bite at a time. If you try to start with why Jeffrey Epstein in general, you're never going to get anywhere, and if you do, no one's going to understand it. But if you say, for instance, where was Jeffrey Epstein between these 2 years? How exactly did he get connected with Maxwell? Who did she know? And then kind of build it. It's, you're building one section at a time, and then build that house slowly over time. And we have to do it because no one else is going to do it.
That's really good advice. I also want to remind people what leaking on background means. It means you can, send your material to a reporter and not use your name. But if you tell them it's on background, it means they can use it. They can use them. It's not off the record and it's not on the record. They won't use your name, but they can use your material. Darling, it sounds like someone should create kind of a national or global Google Doc for all of this crowdsourcing. What?
It sounds like you should have your new Pfizer Papers type of project.
Yeah, it should be a Pfizer Papers type of project, but that was a huge undertaking that took, a full-time manager and full-time editors.
Well, what I'm doing, I've been doing it for the last 4 days, which has been driving you crazy, because Naomi's like, hey, let's go do that thing you promised we do. I'm like, no, wait. And so, but I'm publishing everything I'm doing on Substack. You can use things like, for instance, may I share a screen really quickly? I know we're up against the clock.
We only have about 5 minutes left, but by all means.
So as a trained investigator who ran his own very successful PI business when I met you, and also I'm a trained intelligence analyst, what I always tell people, collect and then build a timeline. And yes, I see that Karen Carpenter says Nick Bryant published the Black Book. I have the Black Book in the logs. I'm not sure if it's his, but there's lots of them out there, and that's good. I will warn people that there are writers who've done really great work on this and published it, but they are not primary sources. You should read their work, but then you should also verify the sources for yourself, because Naomi can tell you as a writer, sometimes you're not going to cite every single thing. You might kind of make a few leaps, and I don't saying you're doing that, but anyways, that's what I recommend. Those are good guides, but they're going to miss something just like you're going to miss something. I'm going to miss something. You might read their work and then have your master list of primary documents and say, oh, they never mentioned this. So what I do recommend to people who want, and I won't do a whole class here, I'm just going to show what I use. Believe it or not, the hardest thing about doing analysis is being organized. And that's why I say do timelines. And then getting everything in one spot, because we all make a million folders and we can't find that thing. It's not a promotion by any means. And yes, I know Bill Gates created this. But one of the best tools that I find for analysis is Microsoft's OneNote. Or something there. It's like a big trapper keeper.
Are you going to share the screen? Because I have one more question.
Yeah, let me, I just got to stop that screen. And then you could ask a question while I'm pulling it up.
Okay, while you're searching for that, and after you post that, darling, can we move away from kind of the technology of investigations, which is...
Well, this is more, it's not really technology, but I just want people to see... All right, here we go. Let's just do it. All right, so check this out. This is my Epstein file. I don't care if everyone sees it. Okay, so if you see here, it's like this is your trapper keeper. Remember those things from high school or from like the 80s? And then these are your folders. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And then in the folders, you have your pages. Okay, so this is for my episode notes here. Got the timelines here, timeline. But what I do is, and what's nice about OneNote is that you could just start typing and move things around the way you want.
Right.
So if you scroll down here, everything's in order from arrest to death. So you go down here and you see it all. And you just start reading through these hundreds of pages. And you'll find things out like, I didn't know so much happened on August 8th and 9th, the days before his death. I didn't know that was the day it was announced that those 2,000 pages of documents were released. I didn't know that he filled out a will and testament on the 8th. I caught the fact that in the official OIG, or Office of Inspector General report, it says, and I quote, MCC New York officials did not learn about the new will until after Epstein's death. Did they know about an old will? That's a weird thing for them to say.
That's a weird thing for them to say.
And then I, halfway through, I'll put my key takeaways. Why was he only on suicide watch for 24 hours after it was believed he tried to commit suicide? Okay, that's in the report. Why did MCC decide to leave the same inmate in a cell with Epstein for 3 days if it was unclear if Epstein had attempted suicide? But you see what I mean? And then I'll make another timeline over here. And what I find really interesting there is you have Epstein commit suicide in a cell. A lot of people knew. I did not know that. Whoa, holy moly. In December 2020, his buddy, who's always on the planes with him, who got arrested for rape, Jean-Luc Brunel of France, he was also arrested. Then you keep scrolling, and then, okay, so on January 18th, the John Doe list gets released.
Okay.
1 month. Wait. Just, and then I'll give you a bit. Mike, you always just don't jump in. This is the big finish right here. Okay. The big finish. Please, I implore you.
Go.
Well, then a month later, Jean-Luc Brunet commits suicide in his prison cell in France. Yeah. And then a year later, 2 years later, the key witness gets suicided. So it's all around, and that's what I'm saying. So, but when you do these timelines, what you're going to find, things stick out at you that you never saw before. That's that. I'll land the plane there. Sorry to
thank you, baby. That's really, really helpful, and I just keep thinking that someone should start kind of a national Google Doc where people can upload their crowd-funded analysis or crowdsourced analysis, so that all these
they could send it to me and I'll credit them.
Oh, baby, don't volunteer that.
No, I'm not going to I'm just going to do my own stuff. But if people want to throw stuff at me, I'll credit them, and I will just send it to as many reporters as I know, and they can have a career.
I would be so much more comfortable if this were out on a neutral space and you were not shepherding it and being a whatever. We can talk about this offline, but
This is public information, Naomi.
it's
This
still
is public.
scary, baby. It's still scary. It's scary. Anyway, let's move on.
Come on, fear is just weakness leaving the body.
Fear keeps us alive. We come from different ethnic groups, and my community used fear very effectively to like survive waves of Cossacks and the Inquisition and so on. And you're the Irish kind of survived by not paying attention to fear. So
Well, that's because you were a community. We were shepherds. We were out there alone with a stick against all the wolves. So we had to be, no pun intended, but we had to be, loud and aggressive and not scared of death. I'm not saying I'm really not scared of death because you can't escape it. So I'm more scared of like getting my face disfigured.
okay. I mean, it's I guess the thing that drives women crazy, I don't want to speak for all women, but sure, the brave, warrior isn't scared of dying in combat, but then the widow's stuck with dealing with all of the threats and horrible things coming at her with no protection. So
It's not bad
it's
if I have life insurance.
baby, it's not good.
Okay. I'm not.
Let's
Look,
not
I
glamorize
don't.
that.
It's not about being brave. It's about just not. Why sweat something you can't escape anyways? That's what I say.
Why
So
court disaster?
I'm not courting disaster. Courting disaster. Look, you can court disaster and worry about like if someone's going to take you out, or someone can hide in their one bedroom apartment and not do anything and just let life be boring and the government take everything away from you, and before you know it, they're yanking you out of your little
I
apartment.
just
And
feel like we are fighting so many good battles. We don't need to add the most
well,
radioactive.
no, this is honestly, this is the Rosetta Stone of so much. There, I mean, the fact that your essay pointed out the Elsevier connection,
Yeah, that was
and I
amazing.
guess Maxwell's father owns Springer. I mean, two of the major scientific publications, and all the people that Epstein blackmailed 6 months before the pandemic happened, all of a sudden the whole world is in lockstep.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? There go all of those problems by just closing down the whole world. I wonder which came first. That's a very interesting observation. Baby, we've run out of time and I have a final
Thanks,
question.
Chris Pumatier.
Okay. All right, you guys, he'll crack it. I'm just the one who's going to be like hiding under the bed going, no, don't come for us.
That's not true.
Um,
She's really quickly. Here's the thing: is like as timid as Naomi tries to make herself come off. There was one time I was driving a U-Haul through Lower Manhattan. It's very bad driving there. You can't barely move, and I'm driving a 16-foot truck, and she happens to see this tweaker, because there's a lot of them there, kind of dancing around, throwing pebbles at these two girls trying to walk away from him. She's out of the truck, yells, "You don't treat women that way." The guy yells some expletives back at her. Her hair starts frizzing out like she became like some Celtic war goddess, and she goes chasing after the guy, and he runs. And I'm like, I'm trying to get out of the truck. I'm action with a plan. She's just like a berserker. So she comes back and she's out of breath in her yoga pants. She goes, "Oh, I couldn't catch him." I go, "What were you going to do with him when you caught him? What was your plan?" She goes, "I don't know. Just make it clear to him how to treat women." I'm like, Jesus, okay. And then we we drive. I get her back in the truck, and I was desperately trying to just park the truck so I could go after her. But if you've ever been in a traffic jam, that's the situation I was in. So then we kind of go around NYU, and there's some wide, rather clean alleys. And as we get stuck by traffic again, we both look down the alleyway, and there's Mr. Tweaker, and he's like kind of berating himself and walking. And then he looks up, and he sees Naomi looking at him from the truck, and he falls backwards and runs the other way. I'm like, geez, that's pretty impressive. But next time, just give me a heads up.
That's really funny. And I second what Slavika is saying. Yeah. No, that was awesome. And yeah, thank you. Well, it's easy for me to be a berserker when I know you're the fan behind me. if I get into any real trouble. But anyway, last question, I promise. Um, you pointed out, which I hadn't thought about, how much time Epstein spent in the air and how insanely expensive it was. If you're committing crimes in flight, is there some legal loophole that makes them harder to prosecute?
Not in flight. It depends on the airspace you're in. I don't know. It really depends on the treaties we
Mhm.
have with other countries. Now, the Virgin Islands, that's U.S. territory, isn't it? It's a protectorate.
Yeah, but if you're over water, isn't that kind of a no man's land? Some water?
I'm not a lawyer. You'd have to ask a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure it's not. I think
Interesting.
as to do more with airspace. For
Gotcha.
instance, when we would leave Saudi Arabia when I was on business over there, as soon as we crossed into like UAE airspace, all the women would rip off their hijabs and put on their lipstick and get ready to go party. But that had to do with airspace. That's all I
Interesting.
know, and I could be wrong.
Okay. Well, baby, this is a totally eye-opening, terrifying, eye-opening. Everyone, my Substack is over on Substack, and my Substack is called Outspoken, and Brian's podcast is called Investigate Everything. And you can find Brian where, baby? In addition to at
And let
my
me get
house,
rid of these
Mary's.
comments, and it'll put right there,
Right, go
right,
ahead.
right below my name,
Oh, yes, at Brian O'Shea SPI. And also, don't you have a Substack of your own, sweetheart?
right there,
Oh, yes.
brianoshea.substack.com.
Whoa, fantastic.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and please find us. And by the way, Chris Pumatir is my new favorite audience member of yours.
isn't he
So
wonderful? He's so
yeah,
nice.
Chris, you got to
Everybody's
come into the audience on Investigate Everything. And yeah, I'd love to go back on Shannon Joy's show. We got to still talk about Mangione.
yeah, baby.
Another one that Pam Bondi is, you know, going after. And, you know,
Oh, so Chris, we are also always on dailyclout.io, and come over to Daily Clout, support it, donate to it, become a member if you can, subscribe to our new platform,
I
Legislature,
think he's asking where the broadcasts are available. So
and the broadcasts are available on Rumble.
and
As
Twitter, and it like right now it's on Twitter, it's on a million different all our platforms, Chris. So Rumble's the best. So get a Rumble account. I recommend that for everyone. Get a Rumble
and that
account.
would be the Daily Clout channel on Rumble. Baby,
Yeah,
we've
got
got to
it. But
go.
hold on. And the first thing you want to do is follow, investigate everything, then follow Outspoken, and then follow Daily Cloud. But
Or the other way around. No,
no,
baby,
no,
we can follow you first. It's fine with me. Darling, we've we're gonna go to Walmart and get a kayak.
I'm not going to Walmart to get a kayak.
Target. We're gonna go to
I'm
Dick's
not going to
Sporting.
Target. I'm not going to Target to buy anything.
Okay, baby,
I've
I know.
boycotted Target a long time ago. Uh,
Baby, we
we
could chat
we will
forever, but I
we
really
will
want to get out.
decide along the way. But it definitely and yeah. So we have some things to take care of, so I can rush back and get out of the sun and get back on these files. Because I got a show tonight at 8 o'clock, Naomi. So don't forget.
I
And
won't.
yeah, and just don't try to cut me off again because Loki is giving you the warning. So
He's giving me the look for sure. He's your right hand man. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. And we will
thank
see
you,
you very soon.
Naomi.
Bye-bye.